Early looks at Tyrann Mathieu's contract say the New Orleans Saints have done it again. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? Welcome into this Wednesday episode of Locked On Saints, your daily podcast covering the New Orleans Saints, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks as always, making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget, we are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube as well. And I'm your host, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter, USA Today's Saints Wire, Tuesdays on Locked On NFL, and here with you every single Monday through Friday on Locked On Saints. And on today's episode, I want to start off with a look at Tyrann Mathieu's contract. We're getting some early looks at it, but we're also going to talk about Jordan Jackson, how his sort of rookie outlook looked going into 2022, and we'll be joined by Jay Stevens of Locked On Buckeyes to talk a little Chris Olave and what he brings to the NFL with somebody who covered him all throughout college. So let's kick it off with Tyrann Mathieu's contract, and needless to say, the New Orleans Saints front office, Khai Harley, Mickey Loomis, they do it again. This is another big time opportunity for the New Orleans Saints to really kind of be able to massage a little bit more opportunity here over the course of the offseason. And they found a way to land an absolute playmaker, a guy that makes their defense better, the guy that makes their team better, their locker room stronger, and they still have a ton of money left to spend for some potential available free agents that are still out there. Some marquee names still on the market, and you should expect the New Orleans Saints to be in play because the salary cap ain't going to be the reason why. So let's talk a little bit about why Tyrann Mathieu's contract is such a standout contract. So here's what we knew going in. It would be a 3-year deal for something around $33 million total, around $11 million per. The estimation was, or the early reports suggested it would be around $18 million guaranteed. It looks like the $18 million guaranteed portion of that is still correct, although Over the Cap is actually reporting there being fully guaranteed money of $20 million. So that'll be something to keep an eye out on over the course of time. But Amy Just, NOLA.com, has reported that it is indeed $18 million per her sources. So we'll stick with that. But a couple of interesting notes. As opposed to this deal necessarily being 3 years, $33 million, it may be more like 3 years, $27 million, $9 million per year, with that extra $6 million being layered in incentives, which would include, according to Over the Cap, $6 million in upside for honors and team performance as well. So that could mean him being, first team All-Pro, could be Pro Bowl honors that end up getting him some incentives or escalators there. It could be, a mechanism built in for total number of tackles, snaps played, games played, things like that. Maybe even team captain honors that would end up going up there. And I would expect Tyrann Mathieu to be a team captain going into 2022. Malcolm Jenkins was. He's no longer on the team, so there's a badge available, and one for Tyrann Mathieu would make a ton of sense here. So let's look at the contract structure. For those of you that are new to the show, that haven't seen or heard this show before, I love contracts. I'm a nerd when it comes to contracts. For those of you that have been in for the long haul here, you know how much I love contracts. So I'm going to try to go through this pretty quickly, but still make sure that it's clear. So the Saints added 2 void years on the end of this deal. So it's really a 3-year deal, but there's 2 void years there that allows them to spread out their signing bonus across 5 years, meaning that it takes up less cap space each time. Now, there will be some dead money at the end of the contract because of that, but who cares? So the Saints gave him a $9.5 million signing bonus, but because of that 5-year deal, because of the 2 void years, it only costs, in terms of prorated bonus, $1.9 million per year over the course of the lifespan of that 5-year deal. That's how signing bonuses work. The player sees that money come up front. It really kind of gets broken up into game checks, but you see that money up front. And then for the team, they get to put that, in terms of accounting wise, spread it out evenly in an even cap hit per year over the life of a contract. That's why void years are important, because it took it from being 3 splits, or 3 payments, if you will, 3 installments, to being 5 installments. So it knocks down the total in terms of each installment. So $1.9 million per year there. The base salary in 2022 is only $1.5 million. So because the CBA was agreed upon a few years ago, There's no cap in terms of being able to escalate base salaries year after year after year. You could have a $1.5 million base salary in 2022 and then escalate that all the way up to $10 million in 2023 if you want to. If the CBA hadn't have been agreed upon, it would have been a 20% rise per year. That would have been the most that you can go up. But because the CBA got closed back then you end up being able to still do this. So the Saints will have a base salary of $1.5 million for Tyrann Mathieu in 2022, $7 million in 23, $7.5 million in 2024. There's also a roster bonus of $1.5 million in 2024 as well, which is a smart move. I'll tell you why in a second. So what this means is that with the $9.5 million signing bonus, the $1.5 million base salary, and the $7 million base salary in 2023, Tyrann Mathieu's guaranteed money is completely up by the time you get to 2024. So one of the things we talked about when we were saying, hey, some things that we want to see in terms of the details of this 3-year deal is that it is a substantial 3-year deal, meaning that is more of a 2 or 3 year contract as opposed to low guarantees keeping it to a 1-year deal. That's what this is. This is a 2-year deal, effectively. The Saints can get out from under this contract in 2024 with a dead cap hit of about $5.2 million. And that's basically remaining signing bonus at that point. So money that's already been paid out anyway. One of the key things to watch will be that roster bonus in 2024 that I mentioned that I said we were going to come back to. Well, we're coming back to it because it is important. $1.5 million. When that roster bonus kicks in, that becomes guaranteed. Now, there are a couple of different mechanisms for that to happen. Being on the roster the first league day of 2024, being on the roster the third league day of 2024, but there have also been situations in which the New Orleans Saints have guaranteed roster bonuses a year in advance. So the 2024 roster bonus, for instance, could kick in the first league day of 2023 as long as Tyrann Mathieu is still on the roster. And that seems likely. So that would take the dead cap hit of $5.2 million to terminate after the second year up to $6.7 million. So that would be an indication that a third year would be in line for Tyrann Mathieu. So we'll just have to see when that roster bonus actually kicks in and if the Saints allow that roster bonus to kick in and what that might tell us in terms of projecting forward to 2024. But as of right now, the Saints and Tyrann Mathieu, they're committed 2022 and 2023, and it's a little bit of a wait and see what happens come 2024. At that point, Tyrann Mathieu will also already be 32 years old. He said that he wants to finish his career here in New Orleans, so he could look for another deal there a year early, maybe extend an extra year right into 2025 and potentially be ready to call it quits after that. But as of right now, what you're looking at is a 2-year deal for Tyrann Mathieu, and that's what you should consider it, 2022, 2023. The reason why this is important, the cap hit for 2022, only $3.4 million. Remember, we said earlier this week, we were kind of projecting and saying, do the New Orleans Saints have the money to sign Jarvis Landry? We said, okay, let's just say Tyrann Mathieu's cap hit this year is $6 million, which is probably going to be more than it is, but let's not be conservative about this. We were right to not be conservative about it because $3.4 million is the cap hit for Tyrann Mathieu. That leaves the Saints right now with about $16 million of cap space left to spend. And that's before the rookie class cashes in, but that should only be about $4 to $5 million. So they're still in double digits right now in terms of their ability to go out there and pursue some additional free agents. So for those who are wondering, do the New Orleans Saints have the cap space to sign Jarvis Landry? You can kind of replace Jarvis Landry with any name you want. And the answer is yes. All right, y'all, coming up next, did the New Orleans Saints go 5 of 5 when it comes to drafting players that could have an immediate impact in their rookie seasons? Air Force defensive tackle and 6th-round selection Jordan Jackson sure makes it look like the Saints did bat 1,000. We're going to jump into that here in just a moment and break it all down as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Built Bar, best tasty protein bars on the market. Protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Here's my favorite thing about Built Bars that I never really talk about. It doesn't take you half an hour to eat them. It's not a situation where they're chewy and grainy and kind of gross and all that kind of stuff. And it's like 20 bites to try to wolf this thing's down. It's like 6 bites, covered in chocolate, enjoyable, texture's great, the flavor's great. They're not chalky and nasty, all that stuff. And then they taste fantastic, which is always the headline when it comes to Built Bar, right? They taste amazing. The flavor's ridiculous. They get the flavor right first, and then they find a way to make it healthy. And I love the way that they go through their process. You could try the Built Puffs. You could try all the different types of standard Built Bars that they have as well. You can do a mix box, so you could try all the different flavors that they have, including mint brownie, which is my personal favorite, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, and so much more. Cookies and cream, salted caramel. I mean, the list is endless when it comes to these guys. They're absolutely incredible. And we're talking here about 4 or 5 grams of protein, 4 or 5 grams of sugar, 4 or 5 grams of net carbs, 130 calories, 17 grams of protein. It's the perfect protein bar, y'all. It's the perfect protein bar. And they're all covered in 100% chocolate as well. So don't waste any time. Don't waste any time at all. Go to built.com. Don't forget to use the promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15, so that you can get 15% off of your next order. No matter if it's your first or your next, you're going to get 15% off with the promo code LOCKED15 at built.com. All right, family, continuing on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, your daily podcast covering the New Orleans Saints. And I appreciate you so much for making us your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget to go and check out the cross parking lot friends, Locked On Pelicans. Jake Madison doing a phenomenal job. Jose Alvarado is now becoming a household name. There's so much to talk about. Zion Williamson, is he coming back? Is he going to take an extension? What are they going to do? So you'll be able to check all that out over at Locked On Pelicans. Oh, and of course, they did the mock draft, the lottery mock draft as well. So who did Jake take at 8? Go and check it out over at Locked On Pelicans. All right, so I want to talk about, I want to do more than talk about. I want to tell you why Jordan Jackson is going to see snaps in 2022. I think the Saints might have gone 5 for 5 here. DeMarco Jackson, it kind of depends what the need is at linebacker. He might not see many defensive snaps, but if the Saints don't sign Quan Alexander, then he might still get out on the field in those 3 linebacker sets, particularly against heavy run teams like the Seattle Seahawks, Baltimore Ravens, all that. But Jordan Jackson, I think no matter what, has the opportunity to have an impact on defense here in 2022. Now, he is somebody that can play special teams. You can bring him out as an extra lineman when you're looking at field goal blocks, punt blocks, all that other stuff for sure. The guy, 6'4", 294 pounds, ran a 4.95. So you're going to like getting him out there in a part of special teams. You're not going to be surprised by the fact that he's a team captain. You're not going to be surprised by the fact that he already graduated. You're not going to be surprised by the fact that he is like 6 different all-team this, that, and the others, right? That's the type of character that the New Orleans Saints look for. But you will love the fact that in 2018, he had 12.5 tackles for a loss. In 2021, he also had 12.5 tackles for loss. Now, he had corrective shoulder surgery and missed the 2020 season, but outside of that, he was really productive. 4.5 sacks in 2018, 3.5 sacks in 2019, 7.5 sacks in 2021. And remember, this is from the interior, right? We're talking about 4.5 sacks is a good number from the interior, right? We're not talking about an edge rusher guy to where you're looking at him to get, 8 to double-digit sacks every season. We're talking about a guy that's pass rushing from the interior. Now, he's going to have a lot of things to clean up. He played at Air Force, right? And no disrespect to Air Force. They could all kick my butt. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But the coaching at Air Force in terms of technique and the things that you're looking for in terms of NFL talent is not going to be equal to that you're going to get in the SEC. It's not going to be equal to that you're going to get with Ryan Nielsen with the New Orleans Saints. So when you look at some of the things like Dane Brugler talks about him having a relentless motor, but he has some issues in terms of direction once he's engaged, and then has some things in terms of base strength and instincts that are inconsistent in the run game. Those are things that are all traits. Those are things that base strength, all that's really about leverage, being able to sink at your hips, play low, all those other things. Instincts, that's something that maybe you got to get that right? You got to be able to, you can't teach that. But the more that you see things, the more that those instincts become, let's just say, informed, right? So the Saints are going to be in a situation here where they're going to be able to help this guy develop. He has everything that he needs in terms of quickness, size, length, frame to be able to be a guy that rotates on this defensive line for the New Orleans Saints. And if you look at the competition on the defensive line, there's a spot. There's a spot there because the only solidified player on the defensive line on the interior for the New Orleans Saints is David Onyemata. Outside of that, you have guys, right? Shy Tuttle, Albert Huggins. You've got Jalen Dalton just got released, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him back. He got waived. Wouldn't be surprised to see him back in New Orleans before training camp because they still have a 90-man roster to fill out. Kentavius Street was signed this offseason. Jaleel Johnson was signed this offseason, but none of those guys are perennial starters, right? They're all going to be competing for the rotation. And that's exactly what Jordan Jackson, coming in out of Air Force as a rookie, is going to do as well. But he checks a lot of boxes: size, frame, speed, agility, quickness, all these other things. And so he's going to be somebody that's going to be able to walk in and say, okay, let me just focus on technique. Let me just focus on kind of fundamentals, get that right. And now all of a sudden I'm in the driver's seat of my own opportunity to be able to contribute immediately on defense. So there's a lot to like around Jordan Jackson. He's a 6th-round selection, so we're going to pump the brakes a little bit. But for the Saints, a 6th-round selection kind of feels like a 3rd-round selection on the defensive line because they tend to rely so much, maybe a 4th-round selection. because they tend to rely so much on undrafted free agents on the defensive interior. So just to see one get drafted is kind of a big deal. And it tells you that the Saints really like this kid, right? And when you have a defensive line coach who is also your co-defensive coordinator, when you have a defensive head coach that's helping to run the draft room and the war room and all that, that tells you something in terms of this guy getting selected, right? So he also had a blocked extra point back in 2019. So Darren Rizzi's probably very happy about him as well. A vertical leap of 30.5 inches. So he got up, and he's 6'4" on top of that. So if we look at his RAS score, 9.14. So he comes in with a relative athletic score, which basically is a composite score looking at size, explosion, speed, and agility, and comparing that across the historical data of players of similar size at his position. The grades you're looking for, like above 9 is elite, above 8, also great. Nice little rhyme there. He's got arm length of 34 inches, basically 33.75 inches. So he's got good arm length there. His size grade was 8.91, 294 pounds, kind of knocked him down a little bit. A little skinny, but he's got good frame there. He was considered great when it came to composite speed, elite when it came to composite agility, great when it came to composite explosion with that 30.5-inch vertical leap and the 9'4" broad jump. Those things tell you that his initial quickness are really good and his initial explosiveness is also really good. So if he's got the timing and if he can get the get off right, then all of a sudden that compared with his ability to be able to explode out of a still pose, which is what you're doing in the vert, right? You're not running and jumping. You're exploding from your feet, right? You're going straight up. Same thing with the broad jump. You're not running and then jump. It's not like the triple jump to where you're building momentum with things. You're jumping from a base. And so if you're able to show that you can do that effectively, which Jordan Jackson has, it goes to show you that from a 3-point stance or a 2-point stance, he can make an impact right off the bat. The 20-yard split that he had of 2.82 was really, really good for his size, weight, speed, all that stuff as well. So something else to consider in terms of his ability to be able to explode quickly and be able to get up to speed pretty quickly as well. All right, so Jordan Jackson is somebody that very likely will see some snaps in 2022 as long as he stays healthy through training camp. But there's a spot open. And again, you don't have to start to be impactful on the Saints defensive line. You don't have to be a starter. The starters very well could be, should be, whatever, David Onyemata and Shy Tuttle, David Onyemata, Kentavius Street, whatever it might be. But if you make the roster, and if you're making the game day roster, more importantly, you're getting snaps on the defensive line because the Saints are playing 4 defensive tackles. They're playing 4 or 5 edge rushers, right? They're rotating 8 or 9 different players every game on the defensive line. So all you got to do is be good enough to make the 53 and then make that game day roster, and you're going to see some playing time, and you should expect to see that for Air Force 6th-round selection defensive tackle Jordan Jackson. Okay, the headliner of the NFL draft for the New Orleans Saints was, of course, Chris Olave. Saints traded up, gave up some assets to move up and select him at 11. We're going to get some more insight on Chris Olave and his ability to be able to make an impact in the NFL immediately by talking to our friend Jay Stevens from over at Locked On Buckeyes, the Buckeyes inside of the Buckeyes expert, the only guy we're talking to when it comes to the Buckeyes. So we're going to chat with him here in just a little while. He's going to tell you why Chris Olave is going to make an immediate impact as a rookie. So I have that coming up for you next as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On Saints. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. Wrapping up today's episode with a quick visit from our friend Jay Stevens at JStevens07 on Twitter, the host of Locked On Buckeyes. He's here to tell us why Chris Olave was the absolute perfect fit for the New Orleans Saints. All right, Jay, it finally happened. Chris Olave is a New Orleans Saint. We've wanted this for quite some time, right? Like, we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah, we have. A little bit longer than I thought we were going to talk about it. I thought it was going to happen last year.
Right.
And lo and behold, he wanted to stay in school, be a Buckeye for one more year. Makes a lot of sense. He wanted to play with guys like Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, C.J. Stroud. So it makes a whole lot of sense. But he's finally in New Orleans. And I don't think, Ross, there's a better fit for him right now as a rookie than him being in the Bayou with Michael Thomas on the opposite side of the field as him.
I was about to say, like, if he wanted to come back to Ohio State and get in with those other Buckeyes, now he gets the opportunity to get it in with another Buckeye here with Michael Thomas in New Orleans. The complement of these two players should be really, really fantastic going into 2022. And Jay, nobody knows the Ohio State Buckeyes like you, host of Locked On Buckeyes. So I want to ask you first and foremost, you covered Chris Olave during his collegiate tenure. What does he bring to a team like the New Orleans Saints, both as the person and the player?
A few things. I'm going to try and make this very, very brief. One's going to be leadership. Now, you say a rookie being a leader. Why do you say that first? Well, he has been at Ohio State for quite a long time, and he has quickly made himself a name in the locker room and in the fan base. People know what to expect from him on and off the field, and he can be a leader. If you have youngsters, with him being a first-round pick, rookies are going to be looking to him. How does he conduct himself? How is he in workouts? How is he in the film room? I've heard no complaints, no gripes, no coaches complain about Chris Olave in the film room, on the practice field, in the game, even to the point that when he decided to opt out of playing in the Rose Bowl, he still was with the team and he was with them on game day, being a leader off of the field. So that leadership quality that I think he had in college can trickle down and can continue with him into the NFL. So you're getting a leader, you're getting a hard worker. And you're also getting somebody that is going to defy the odds and doesn't care about the labels. A 3-star recruit in high school. Ryan Day literally went up to the high school that Chris Olave was at to recruit somebody else. But Olave caught his eye. The next thing you know, Olave is in Columbus, and he is one of the Buckeyes that people will be talking about for decades and decades down the road. So leadership, you're going to get a hard worker, but someone that would just defy the odds. Now, you be a first-round pick. There are number 11 overall. There's going to be a tag tagged with you. Mm-hmm. Does that affect you? Do you let that get into your head? Olave didn't let the 3-star tag defy him and say he cannot be a phenomenal college football player. I don't think that he'll let this 11th overall pick of the draft sink into his head, puff his head up, and allow him to not be the NFL player he can be, and I think he will be.
Now, Jay, we know betonline.net, they have Chris Olave with the best odds to become Offensive Rookie of the Year. I know you talked about that over on Locked On Buckeyes. Folks should go and check that out. But more specifically, when you talk about his impact over on the offensive side, it looks like the Saints are bringing him in to be a wide receiver too, right? That could maybe later on develop into a wide receiver 1, but just going one step at a time. How does he complement a guy like Michael Thomas? I know he has an expansive route tree. He's got great route running capability. What is it that he brings to this team from the player perspective lining up outside MT?
Well, he's kind of been wide receiver 2 last year. Like I'm just gonna be honest with you.
Yeah,
he has the most receiving touchdowns in Ohio State history, and he was still wide receiver 2. You want to be technical? He was the 3rd best receiver at Ohio State last year because I do think the slot receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba was possibly the best receiver.
Yeah, wide receiver 1 going into 2023. We can say it right now. Jackson Smith-Njigba to the New Orleans Saints. Let's go.
Take them all. Pete Werner in 2021, Olave 2022. You take Njigba in 2023. I mean, I might have to move down to New Orleans.
There you go. Come on down.
You watch Saints games all the time. But I do think, though, he has learned, Olave in college, how to complement the other receivers on the field. Mm-hmm. And he understands, I'm not getting all the balls. I'm not getting all the yards. I'm not going to catch all the touchdowns. Whatever the team needs me to do, I'm going to do it. With Michael Thomas being as lethal on the field as he is, Michael Thomas, I'm sure, is just waiting and salivating and just can't wait until he's back on the field because he knows there's a guy on the opposite side of the field. He's a rookie, but he's lethal. And Michael Thomas on his side, Michael Thomas knows Olave is going to want the ball, but he's also going to be a team player, a team guy first, which is what every coach wants in a rookie.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at where Chris Olave comes in. He wasn't the leading receiver, or he doesn't have 1,000-yard receiving season during his time at Ohio State. Is that something that should concern Saints fans at all, or will the scheme be enough to be able to help him produce at a high level in the NFL?
I don't think anybody that's watched him play football in college will say that the numbers will derail them from thinking Olave will do anything in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I'm a numbers guy, but to a T. Now, I'm not like a big stats nerd. I more want to use my eyeballs to describe what happens on the field. There are stats guys. I know, Ross, you like numbers, and I think there's a place for that. And I know don't not keep it like that, but my brain, I like numbers, but I can only take so many numbers at one time before things start getting jumbled up while trying to consume it at one time. So I just let my eyeballs show me what's happening on the field. I don't care about his lack of 1,000-yard receiving numbers. Mm-hmm. No, I don't care at all. I don't think Buckeye fans, I don't think college football fans, when they think about that, they don't think about what he did not do. Shouldn't be a problem at all. And if you are someone that says, well, he didn't have that, well, look at all the other receivers that didn't have 1,000-yard receiving seasons in college, and think about, well, the All-Pros and the Hall of Famers and those guys there. Because at one point, Ross, you know this, college football was not a pass-happy brand of football. It was a lot of running backs running the ball, and you have receivers who are really good that did not get that.
Right.
It's not a problem. Those numbers, those yards don't hinder me at all. I think Saints fans should just realize Olave is going to be a guy who's going to work hard, could and probably should, and I won't say will. It's a little early for that, but has a really good shot of winning Rookie of the Year because of the things I've mentioned previously about the type of person that he is.
Absolutely. Always a straight shooter. Jay, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to come on, talk a little Chris Olave. We know the Saints love them Buckeyes, so we'll be seeing you again here over on Locked On Saints. And you know I'm always going to be coming through over at Locked On Buckeyes because we got a lot to talk about. We always got a lot to talk about when it comes to these guys. We appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming through.
Ross, if y'all get Smith and Jigba next year, we might have to be co-hosts for a week, bro.
I'm saying we might do a whole week together.
Might have to be, because it's just too many Buckeyes in the bayou for just to be one guy talking about them in New Orleans every single day. But no, Ross is fun, man. I'm out of here. Have a good time.
All right, y'all. Don't forget you can check in with Jay Stevens anytime you want at JStevens07 on Twitter, the Jay Stevens Pod, and of course Locked On Buckeyes. We appreciate Jay for coming through and giving us some insight on the explosive Chris Olave. Tomorrow's episode, it's schedule release day. Let's predict some of the schedules. Let's take a look at what the biggest, baddest matchups are going to be. And then, of course, talk about the things that the Saints need to go their way ahead of the schedule release. And then after the schedule is released Thursday night, we'll be live on the Locked On Saints YouTube page. So we'll do our Friday show Thursday night live over on YouTube. So make sure you keep an eye out for that as well. That'll be right after the official schedule release is done. We'll go live, do our show, and then talk a little bit about the schedule, including win-loss projections, toughest stretches, biggest games, everything that you need to know about each half of the schedule. So make sure that you are keeping it locked here on the Locked On Saints podcast. I appreciate you, as always, making us your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff so that you're keeping up with the newest episodes every Monday through Friday. Next, go and check out that Locked On NFL podcast, everything you need to know around the league in less than 30 minutes with hosts like myself, Chris Carter, Tony Wiggins, giving you everything you need to know, as well as visits from the local experts all around the Locked On NFL channel. We appreciate you, as always, making us a part of your day here on the show. For everything else you need in between these episodes on your New Orleans Saints, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you're living. Let me know how your mom and them. And trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.